Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux, and today we're going to be taking a look at Loki Prime. So I have two builds for Loki Prime on my website, and we're going to cover both of those in this video. But the first one we're going to take a look at here is the Perma Invisibility build, and it's kind of called that by a lot of people. This is a pretty common build that you'll see players running with Loki Prime or Loki, and I like to throw in the Hushed Invisibility mod, because when you're leveling weapons, and you get stealth kills with them, you're going to get what's called Stealth Affinity, and that's going to give you an affinity based on a multiplier up to 5 times affinity for every stealth kill you get in succession. And then it'll stay at 5 times, and you keep getting more and more kills. So this makes leveling non-silent weapons really, really efficient. So I like this build for a lot of different things. Besides leveling, I use it for spy missions a lot, and it's a great soloable build. You can solo pretty much any mission with this build. So let's take a look at his abilities real quick here. We have a couple here. We got Decoy. Decoy is basically he just puts a copy of himself on the ground, enemies will attack it, and you can also switch teleport with it, and we'll show you how to do that here in a minute. But Invisibility is going to be our cornerstone bread and butter move of this build here. We're going to be using this a lot. And with this build, we have so much efficiency, and with the energy siphon, that's going to allow us to regain our energy that it costs us to cast Invisibility, and that's why they call it Perma Invisibility. Not because the power or the duration lasts so long, but because it's self-sufficient and you can keep casting it. So switch teleport, like I said, you can switch with your decoy, and you can switch with allies and enemies as well, which is kind of fun to troll your buddies with. But Radial Disarm is pretty nice, and we're going to have our next build is going to be built around this skill. But with the Perma Invis build, it's not exactly useless, it's just not as effective. You're not going to have the range, and you're not going to have the ability to put a radiation proc on your enemy. So with that being said, let's go ahead and show you how it works. We're going to spawn some enemies here. It doesn't really matter what kind. Preferably ones. We're going to spawn some with weapons here, and we're going to spawn ones with melee weapons. So we'll have ballistic weapons and then melee weapons. So we'll go ahead and spawn these guys real quick, and we'll show you how the invisibility build works. So you can tell they know we're here. In the simulacrum, enemies are always alerted to your presence. So we're just going to go invisible right now, and they're going to fire on the last location they saw us in. And I'm using the Sancti Tigress right now, which is a really loud shotgun, but we'll see here that this guy didn't even know I was there. Hushed Invisibility will totally silence our loud weapons, so they have no idea. If you hit them, they will kind of be alerted if you don't kill them in one hit, but these guys have no idea we're here. So to kind of show you how Radial Disarm works, go ahead and use that real quick, and then we'll try Radiating Disarm, and I'll show you the difference between the two. So they lose their melee weapon, or they lose their projectile weapons. They get these little batons. Enemies with melee weapons already, so scorpions, these butcher guys, they'll keep their melee weapon. They won't have the baton. And at higher levels, these guys with the batons are still dangerous. They can still dish out a lot of damage. So that being said, let's go ahead and show you guys the Radiating Disarm build real quick. So this one is going to be a little different. It's going to be kind of the inverse. This build is based more on duration and efficiency than anything. This build is based more on range. We want as much range as we can possibly get, because we want to stretch out that Radial Disarm as far as possible to disarm as many enemies. This is the augment that kind of makes the whole thing work. So a Radiating Disarm, Radial Disarm augment, enemies will be affected by radiation for 9 seconds. So that's pretty awesome. We have to have that to do a Radiating Disarm build. Without that, it's just a Radial Disarm build. And that's not quite as fun. I'll show you what it looks like. So we'll spawn the same enemies again. We'll do some Corrupted Lancers and then some Corrupted Butchers. I like using Void enemies and enemies that are really high level just to demonstrate to you how this build would function at, like, you know, in-game really high level content. So we can still use Invisibility. The only problem is if we shoot with Invisibility and we don't have that Hushed Invisibility mod, they're going to be able to find us. They'll come to the last area that we shot at. And obviously it's not going to have the duration it did before, but it's still good to keep you out of trouble. So using a Radiating Disarm, you'll notice that these guys instantly just start attacking each other. It's almost like your Nyx. This is very similar to Nyx's Chaos ability, except it also disarms enemies as well. And you can keep recasting it and putting that rad proc on them, which is really useful for new enemies that spawn, enemies you may have missed, anything like that. And as you see here, these guys, they still have their cleavers, and these guys are stuck with these little batons. But basically, this is Loki. I mean, there's really not much to this frame, but he's very, very effective, and I really enjoy playing him. A lot of longtime Warframe players really love his solo ability, his crowd control. He fits into a lot of roles, and he's a really, really great frame. I enjoy him a lot. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you so much.